Hello YouTube, Slothalopolis and Doc here today doing some more Halo Wars 2 deck rebuilds. Some of the first videos that we did were really in-depth analysis videos for decks on each of the leaders from the Halo Wars 2 Blitz beta. Lots changed since then, both in the balancing of the game, and we also did a in-depth unit comparison, comparing each unit to each other, so that we could have some hard evidence. And the stuff that we learned from that showed us that we probably should update some of these decks. So those videos were really in depth, and they were actually kind of long because they were so in depth. These videos we're going to keep a little bit shorter, just in the interest of time, and not everything has changed. So we're going to keep it a little bit shorter. We're going to gloss through things a little bit. But Doc is actually going to talk about Cutter, and that's who we're going to be doing today. And then I'll probably hit you with some hard numbers from our spreadsheet, and we'll actually link the video to that unit comparison and to the spreadsheet down in the description below. But the big things that have changed for us with Cutter since the beta is we took out the reactive Cyclops. We had two different versions of the Cyclops. I'm not sure of the way to say multiple Cyclopses, Cyclops Eye, so I'm going to stick with that. We're actually removing the Warthogs because we changed up our starting army, and we're no longer running double Kodiak. We're going to try to go a little bit more offensively as opposed to set up on a point and be defensive like we were in the beta. You're going to see Doc use a little bit more leader power than he traditionally does. He's more of
Very
a
true.
unit kind of guy, and then we're going to bring in some more blast units because we're really seeing the benefits of those. So I'll let Doc kind of go unit by unit and go from there.
Yeah, Sloth, great points. The one thing you guys are seeing the actual deck up on your screen right now, you see that last slot is empty. One of the two legendary cards I do not have is Jerome, and I know absolutely I don't even have to use him. I know he 100% would fill those slots just because how good the hero units are. So that is the last card for this deck that we would be using. I will talk through kind of one other card that I would use if you're like me, and what I actually put in the deck without him if you're in the same boat. But besides that, I'll just highlight a couple of the real key changes. The first thing I do want to talk about, though, is the starting army. We're using the Raider, which is the 3 Warthogs, and that's kind of one part of the reason we took the Warthog out of this deck. Two, we thought there are obviously some better cards that we could utilize, but starting with 3 is pretty good, especially if you manage them well. You can use them, grab those early points, and then kind of just spread them out from there to be your your troops that'll pick up your energy. But I'm not really a fan of either of these starting armies. So the Phoenix starting army with the 2 ODSTs and the Nightingale is pretty good. I just don't think it has the damage dealing capability that you see with a lot of the other starting armies. One of the big drawbacks of Raider, which again is the one that I prefer to use, is it is super weak to the Hunter or the Cyclops counter starting army. Because they just get shredded by those units. So just keep in mind, again, not a big fan of either of these starting armies. This is the one I'm using. If you feel like you have more success with the other one, by all means use it. The Nightingale is nice, and ODSTs are good. I just don't think either one really, honestly, has a benefit. The only thing I like for this starting army is just how fast it is. So as we jump into this again, not going to hit everything. I'm just going to kind of cover the key changes. The first big key change that we're looking at is bringing in Wild Hellbringers. If you've seen any of the other videos that we've been doing, you know how much we really enjoy the blast units and how much we kind of almost just consider them being additional leader powers. This unit, Wild Hellbringers, I want to say is the weakest health-wise of all of the blast units. So being able to drop this thing in, especially at 60 energy, and if you can get that blast to go off and grab some opponent troops, you're almost always going to get the benefit out of this troop. As far as the actual troop is concerned, me and Sloth, we've done the research. We do not like these. We don't like the standard ones, and we don't like the wild ones either. They honestly, I think, Sloth, you'll have to look at the spreadsheet for me, but I don't think there's even an increase of damage between the wild and the standard. I think they're 100% the same. Am I correct?
They are.
Yeah,
Yep, they
so
are.
that's
And it's worth noting that it's 40 plus seconds to kill a standard grunt.
right,
Which that's what they're supposed to be good against.
right.
So they're just hot garbage. And like you talked about though, the low health, the Wild Hellbringers are the lowest health unit in the game, at 2 health bars. And since they're blast, you're probably going to be dropping them in battle fatigue, and they're only going to have 1 bar of health. And they're actually the same cost as the wild jackrabbit for Isabel, but they die even quicker, and they still have that same blast damage and radius. It's basically a better version, in my opinion, of the wild jackrabbit.
Yeah, great points. And again, that spreadsheet, that's what Sloth's looking at right now to kind of help us make those comparisons. So again, we'll link that below. We also have the 2 videos, as he said. We'll throw those in the descriptions. Check them out. Again, they're a little bit longer, but we do really have, I think, some good statistical analysis for why we're including the things that we're including. We're not just pulling this stuff out of our hip pocket and throwing it up and just making a deck just to get views. We want to provide you guys a good look with some hard data for some of the choices that we're making. So I think we've covered that. Again, Vanguard Wolverine, it's awesome. Put it in there. The extra health, the extra damage, gotta have it. ODST drop is something that I've actually come to really enjoy as a leader power. Again, the ODSTs are good. The fact that you're dropping these in, you get 2 troops of ODSTs for 80 energy. No battle fatigue because they're coming in off of a leader power. This is something that's really just helped to bolster my army, and then obviously provide some good capability against some air units and some other things, and just honestly be a good overall general troop, as well as if you are fighting hard for energy cores. These are a great troop to drop in and snag some energy kind of out of the blue, because a lot of people won't see them coming. And again, as soon as they hit, you're no battle fatigue, so they can pick it up. So definitely an inclusion there, and that's kind of why we see the shift with this deck, at least for a little bit more of the leader power side. Veteran Cyclops, we had it in the original along with the reactive. As Lost said, we're keeping this one in just because how much better the actual Veteran Cyclops is. So definitely make sure you got to have that kind of balance of units, the capability to take out vehicles, and that's your thing to do it. Scorpion, I think that's, that goes without saying. Stealth Kodiak, we're a fan of. Mostly because I do always think you need to at least kind of have 1 siege unit. The fact that you can drop this thing in, and most of the time they can't see it, this is great to kind of sneak this unit in a little bit closer than normal, and really get some cheeky damage in, because a lot of times, they won't go to find it, and if they're really not paying attention, they're not going to be able to see it, having that cloak ability. So for the extra little bit, 20 energy, this is an easy inclusion over the standard. If you don't have this one, throw the standard one in. The purpose will get you the same. But again, the extra 20 energy here makes it worth the cloak ability. Trooper Hornet and the Vulture, this is kind of your top end. Cutter really doesn't have an exceptional troop, on the real high top end to get a lot of damage in. And that's kind of why we went a little bit more of the air route with this one, just because of how good the Vulture is. And then the Trooper Hornet having Last Stand 3 just gives it some extra viability. Once it does go down, you do get a little bit of additional plus up from this. Plus, you can see in the picture here that it has the Marine standing outside with the rocket launcher. This troop, compared to the standard Hornet, even though we still have it in the deck, does a lot more damage, specifically in Sloth. You want to check that statistic for me as far as the time difference.
Yeah, I actually had this one ready to rock because this is one I really wanted to focus on. Trooper Hornet is about 15 seconds, where the Hornet is about 25. So that's 10 seconds, about 40% faster to kill, because those Marines are hanging out the sides with the rocket launchers, tearing things up.
Yeah, so absolutely a good inclusion, worth the extra energy. Close air support, good leader power. We had it in the original. Keep it, especially if you're defending a point. This thing is great. I've come to appreciate this leader power a little bit more because it doesn't only focus on the inside of the circle. As the units are retreating, it'll also focus on the outside, and it has some pretty good range as it makes its circles. So definitely worth the 180 energy. And then again, this last spot would be for Jerome. He sits at 220 energy, shield like all the Spartans, and he actually has the rush ability, which is nice. So you see a little bit of a kind of a rush mechanic with this deck as well, using the Vanguards, using the ODSTs, and then him. So that's kind of how this balances out. Now, if you're like me and you don't have Jerome, the inclusion I would make, again, kind of sticking with the leader powers, would honestly be Archer missiles. I like Archer missiles. I think they're a little slow personally, and they definitely take some setup because you have the drop to 2 points. But the amount of damage you actually get in that small path with the Archer missiles for 100 energy is really good. So definitely an inclusion and something that I would use again if you're missing any of the other leader powers or maybe Jerome on your top end. If you are a fan of Condor Strike, I'm personally not. You could also, I guess, make that a substitution for Jerome. But at 300 energy, I tend to try to stay away from these because this unit doesn't stick around, and that's the biggest reason why. This can definitely change a game. This can definitely keep you in a game. Maybe if you're running like a 3v3 setup and you need something really high in the top end, then absolutely you could throw this in. Otherwise, if you're running twos, and especially if you're running ones, I would generally stay away from this. But that's kind of how we set up the deck. Again, a pretty decent energy curve, actually really nice gradual step up that makes this pretty good medium energy deck that kind of fit in and be able to use pretty much anywhere. I'll throw it back over to Sloth if he's got any more key statistics that he wants to point out for us.
Those that we talked about, I feel like are the big things. Things that we kind of thought we would see are like the Vanguard Wolverine is fantastic, and obviously the Vulture is fantastic. I don't really feel like we have an energy curve problem in this one. So I would definitely stay away from using the standard Wolverine if you do have the Vanguard Wolverine available. But those numbers that we threw out, I mean, the ODSTs kick the crap out of standard Marines as they should. They're more expensive, but just one Wolverine or one ODST, pardon me, does way better than a standard Marine, and you're going to get two separate drops of those ODSTs every time you drop those in. And the big thing for me was the Trooper Hornet. Use that thing. I think we've accommodated a spot in this deck for that higher energy bump from that 80 to 130. So use that thing. I feel like you'll be really surprised to watch them tear things up.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, hopefully you guys like this deck build. Try it out. Give it a test run. Let us know your feedback again. If you have a completely different build for Cutter that's working for you, by all means, throw it down in the comments. Let us know. If you've got one or two card swaps and a good reason for why you're throwing it in to this build, again, let us know. We're always up for the discussion. We love the discussion. We love trying to help the community, especially our subscribers and all the viewers. But we'll kind of wrap it up there. We'll leave you at that. Again, some good links down below to some of our other videos and that spreadsheet so you can take a look. We're continuing to look at that and update that as we go. So we'll kind of refine that product. But again, pretty good statistical analysis sitting in there. And it really just helps you kind of determine, how much better is a Vanguard Wolverine versus a regular Wolverine and those kinds of situations. So hopefully you enjoyed. Please make sure if you do, hit a like for us. That absolutely helps us out. And if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. We got a lot of content for Halo Wars 2 on the channel. Plenty of stuff already up and a lot more stuff coming too. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. I've been Doc. That's been Sloth. We are Average Gamer, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We'll check you next time.